What's up, Supermoto Bros? We're back with episode 4 of the Supermoto bike build, and today we're going to be talking about our Hinson BTL Slipper Clutch. I can't thank Hinson Bulletproof Products enough for sending me this awesome BTL Slipper Clutch. This is absolutely insane, and big thanks to them for their support in the 2024 season. And with the Supermoto bike build, I'm excited to get these awesome, beautiful parts in the 22 Honda. It did come with the Hinson clutch basket, the fibers, the metals, the BTL Slipper Clutch, and the Hinson Bulletproof clutch cover. So make sure to go check out Hinson if you haven't already. They have the best quality products on the market. So to start off with, we're going to drain the oil. You don't necessarily have to, but I do feel like it makes the job a little bit easier to change out the clutch if you just drain all of the oil. I went ahead and changed the oil filter as well. You don't have to, but I did since I'm changing what oil I'm putting in the bike. So I went ahead and drained that and changed the oil filter. Once you get all of the oil drained, I even changed the oil filter. That way, just get all of that oil out of there so I can start with completely fresh new oil. Now, this is all personal preference. I just like to lean the bike over on its side so that way everything kind of more or less just drops into the clutch instead of having to try to fit it in, but it's all personal preference. Before anything, I would recommend reading the Hinson booklet that comes with the clutch. That way it gives you any information you might need and reference back to it for any questions you might have. So the first thing I'm going to do is take out these bolts to the pressure plate on the BTL Slipper Clutch, and I'm going to replace the 750 Newton slip adjustment spring with the 1100 Newton slip adjustment spring. The difference between the slip spring weight is the amount of slip that the spring provides while under reverse torque. So go ahead and grab your reverse pliers. That way we can get this snap ring off. So take note, when you are taking your back torque limiter out of the BTL Slipper Clutch, there is this release ring, and you want to make sure that you put it back exactly how you took it out. You can get those mixed up pretty easily, so just take note on that. Now that we have our 1100 Newton back torque limiter spring back in the BTL Slipper Clutch, we can go ahead and put it back together exactly how we took it apart. When reinstalling this circlip, you want to make sure that it's fully seated and has an even spacing all the way around, so that way it won't pop out on you. Next up would be to go back to your bike and go ahead and take the clutch cover off now. When pulling your clutch cover off, be careful of the O-ring that is in there. It can get stretched very easily. Now that we got the clutch cover off, we can go ahead and loosen the clutch bolts up. Now that we got all of those loosened up, we can go ahead and pull all of those clutch bolts and springs out, which will allow us to take this OEM pressure plate off. Now that we've gotten that pressure plate off, we can go ahead and bend the washer clip flat, so that way we can go ahead and get the clutch nut off. Once that clutch nut is removed, we should be able to pull the OEM clutch basket with the fibers and metals right out. Next up, we want to remove this washer from the OEM clutch basket and put it into the Hinson clutch basket. Our next step would be to remove the backing plate and gear from the OEM stock clutch basket, but they are riveted on there, so we're going to have to grab our angle grinder and grind these down so we can pop that backing plate off. Now for the Hinson clutch basket, there are bolts that hold the backing plate on. Thankfully, Hinson sends the tool you need to remove and reinstall those bolts that hold the backing plate on. Once the gear is removed, they'll sit right on these rubber cushions. There are a few reasons why it's worth the time to install Hinson's clutch basket. The first is that it can improve your clutch performance and life of the clutch by dissipating heat with its increased oil dynamics, and it is bulletproof and hard-coated for up to 5 times wear resistance compared to the stock OEM clutch basket. So now would be the time to go ahead and remove those bolts from the Hinson clutch basket. Once you get all of those bolts removed, you can go ahead and grab your angle grinder and we'll grind those rivets off. Once you get all of the rivets grinded down to be flush with the backing plate, you can go ahead and grab your flathead, try to wiggle it under the backing plate and pop it right off. Now that we have the backing plate off, we can go ahead and pop the gear off of the clutch basket and transfer it over to the Hinson clutch basket. Just give it a little pop it right in on those rubber cushions. That way it seats correctly. Put that washer back on, and then go ahead and put that backing plate back on. Now we'll go ahead and grab those bolts and we'll screw them back in. But before you screw them in, you're going to want to grab some red Loctite because you do not want these bolts backing out. So you're going to want to put some red Loctite on all of the bolts and then you'll screw them in. Once we get all these bolts screwed in and tightened to the Hinson torque spec according to the Hinson booklet, we can go ahead and drop our Hinson basket into the cases. In your case, there's a little gear here at the bottom. You want to set the basket in there and then stick your finger in there and kind of lift up on that gear and it'll help the gear set right in. Next up, we're going to grab our inner piece of the clutch and we're going to set it into the basket. Once you line up the spline, the clutch will just drop right in. Once the clutch is set in there, there is a little locking washer, and you can see right here there's a little notch that when you drop the washer in, it holds it so it is unable to spin. So go ahead and grab your clutch nut and go ahead and put some blue Loctite on there. That way that clutch nut can't back off. So go ahead and screw that clutch nut down and then go ahead and tighten it to the Hinson torque specs found in the Hinson booklet that comes with your clutch. Now that we have the Hinson BTL Slipper Clutch installed and tightened down, we can go ahead and grab our fibers and our metals. First off, you want to make sure you soak your fibers in oil before putting them into your clutch. And you want to start with the fiber, and then you want to go metal, fiber, and so on until you run out. You want to make sure you start with a fiber and you end with a fiber. Now that we're done installing all of our fibers and our metals, we can go ahead and grab this little clutch piece right here, and it just sets right on top of that rod. And finally, we'll grab our pressure plate and set that right on top. When you set it in, you'll feel it seat right in, and then you'll want to grab a skinny little flathead similar to this one. That way you can go ahead and line up the bolt holes. Once you get those bolt holes lined up, go ahead and put your bolts on in and tighten them down in a cross pattern. So I just do finger tight and I keep just doing a cross pattern until they're pretty much all the way down. And then I torque them down to the Hinson torque specs as found in your Hinson booklet. Next, grab your Hinson bulletproof clutch cover, set it right on top and screw all those bolts in. Now that we have our Hinson clutch cover installed, we can go ahead and pick the bike up and put it back on our stand. The last step in this video is going to be putting oil back in your bike. And thanks to Motul for supplying us with their 300V 5-weight 40. This is one of the best oils on the market and only oil I use in all my motorcycles. If you like this video, make sure to drop a like down below and comment your thoughts on the bike build so far and any questions or concerns you might have regarding your Hinson BTL Slipper Clutch. If you liked today's video, feel free to subscribe, as it would mean the world to me, and make sure to turn that notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. The next step in this Supermoto bike build would be to put a pipe on your bike. I recommend using the Yoshimura RS12. I'm not doing a video on that just because this bike did come with a Yoshimura pipe already on it. Lucky me. So I'll catch you Supermoto bros in the next one.